Okay, so this edition of Unscripted is coming straight away from my car, and today we'll be looking at something very, very, very interesting. And I often share these, and most of the time I talk about the fact that land passed through different stages, and the foundation for real estate is land. I mean, everything about real estate space, everything is all about land, whether it's commercial real estate, um, residential real estate, everything we are talking about when it comes to real estate is land. So these thoughts just came very strong. I just decided that, okay, let me park somewhere and just make this video because I couldn't just hold it. I've shared it several times, but this particular version and this dimension, I've not shared it before. And how do you uh, at what point or at what stage do you buy real estate? Because now focusing on land, because land basically pass through different stages. Okay, so I often share 5 stages. I've shared 4 stages, but today I'll be sharing 6. As more insight comes in, as we gain more insight, as we uh, gain practical knowledge about some of these things, of course, it keeps expanding and keeps growing and all of that. Okay, and this too is actually born out of questions, questions that people often ask me, and I just feel that this is a good way to answer those questions. And it's going to be as short as possible because I need to get back on the road. Okay, so number one is real estate. Like I mentioned, real estate is the foundation of everything that we do. So also land is the foundation of real estate, and land is a limited resource. There's no technology that can help us to be making land. There's no technology that can make us to be sleeping and living our life online. So we still need to be physically present. In fact, one of my friends usually say this humorously. He said, even cloud computing need a real estate to host its servers. Okay, so also is everything that we do. So let's look at this land thing. In one of the series I've done before, I talked about debt capital. I think there are quite a number of parts that we looked at when it comes to debt capital. So, and it's more or less this answer to the question of at what point in time should I buy a piece of real estate. It's going to be, I'll pick it up from the debt capital dimension. Okay, so there's a stage whereby assets are just dead, right? It's a stage. And at that stage, we can be looking at it that for some of those assets are basically owned by government that do not have individual owners, depending on the law of the land, really. So in places like Nigeria, Lagos, and all the rest, most of those assets are probably owned by government or forced settlers. But most of the time, there's a state where nobody owns a particular piece of land. It's all owned by the authority or the constitution, whoever the constitution gives the power of ownership to. Of course, most of this property recognize the first dwellers, right? And that gives some measure of rights to those people, right? So that's the first stage. Then the second stage is where most of these places now becomes farmland. Some of these land are plains, some of them are by the riverside. They become farmland. People start farming on it on a regular basis, and they build their settlement close to those areas where people started farming on and all of that. So, and some begin mining on it, some do a whole lot of other agriculture and survival stuff on some of this land. So stage one is where there was literally no ownership. Then stage two is where basically the farmers occupy those land, because there's nowhere that we are right now that farmers at some point in time do are not have not at one point or the other occupied. It used to be a farmland. It used to be a farm. It used to be some people's dwelling place. Used to be rearing hunting site for some people, right? In fact, I was listening to a podcast of recent, and the guy there was talking about how towns develop. Okay, said people um, move from survival to settlement, from settlement, they begin to expand their family, they start agriculture. So it moves from there to a village, from a village to a town, from a town to a city, from a city it becomes a metropolis, right? A mega city and all of those things. Okay. So that's really the evolving stage. So after that farming stage, some people will come up and they start doing land banking, right? Because people are seeing that the population is on the increase and land banking is not really a bad idea. So the idea of land banking begins to come into play right now, because at that state, what people are now looking at is the possibility of buying land at a cheap rate now because of the foreseeable expansion of the populace, especially when there's a city very close by. Maybe there's a particular town or a village that is currently expanding, or a city that is currently expanding. Then people start looking at thinking about the possibility of expansion and land banking. Okay, so that is a state, right? So that's number three. Then number four is most of this land that are now being used for land banking now started, I mean, the projections start coming to pass, right? And sometimes the state of the land banking can be 30 years, can be 20 years, can be 10 years, can even be 5 years, right? I during the week I was on one of our projects and I was sharing with some of the allottees that this same land that you can see right now, some people bought it for 50,000 naira per acre about 30 years ago, and that same land is going for 10 million naira per plot right now. So, and I often share that there's no money rituals that can give you the return of land banking. No money ritual. No money ritual can give you the return of land banking. Okay. So the first stage is basically the state of development. The state of development, and at this state, basically the land is being developed. That's why you now call it a developing site. One person is living in one street, two people are now living on the street. Gradually, people are moving. Somebody started foundation left here, another person started foundation on the right there. It started gradually keep improving, keep improving, keep improving. Then it moved from a developing site to now a fully developed site. Now, normally, at the state of being developed, or even before land banking, government is supposed to have provided infrastructure that will aid people's movement based on population projection. But most often than not, that does not really happen in developing worlds. So it's usually developed before infrastructure coming. That's why you see a fully developed area, then road construction, power grid will start coming in, and a whole lot of stuff too will start coming in those axes. It's unfortunate, but that is what usually happen, right? Then it moved from developing to a developed area. Then after developed area, as the population keeps increasing and the demands and the dynamics of demands keeps changing too and keeps increasing, then it now moves to urban regeneration. What urban regeneration means that this area is now fully urbanized, but some of the first set of houses that were built cannot meet up with the current population of people living within that area. So what happens is that sometimes, and because the land is where the value really is, so this happen in quite a number of places. Some, I mean, valuable locations in Lagos, that you see a bungalow on a land worth 5 billion, maybe just two bungalows. At that point in time, those bungalows are are sitting on what is much more valuable than them, right? So it's usually pulled down. Then sometimes a skyscraper, high-rising building will now come in to command the true value of what that land is, right? And a whole lot of people too have asked me this question: why should I build a high-rise building? What should determine why I should build a high-rise building? Number one, the demand. That's number one. Number two is that you need to understand that what is the cost. The same place you are building high-rise building, bungalow 10 years ago, high-rise building might be what is the selling in 10 years time. Then you look at it, what's the cost of me doing a decking compared to the cost of buying land, right? So if the cost of buying land is cheaper than the cost of doing a decking, just buy extra land and build as many as possible. There's a place very close to work by here, and Ogba in Lagos State rather, I mean, on almost 10 acres, the man just built pockets of bungalow, until today it's still there. So the value of that land is even far more than building the bungalow, even at the current inflation price now. Okay, so these are the realities of the time that we live in right now. Okay, so these are stages of um, metamorphosis of land. Yes. So the changing state of land, right? So these are the stages. And at what point do you come in and buy? That's really the question I want to really answer with all this my explanation. You can buy at any point in time. Your purpose is what we determine. I've done a video on that before. You can buy at any time. So if you buy earlier, then it will suit a purpose. If you buy now, it will also suit a purpose. So your purpose will determine when you come into the market. So if you are buying when the land literally have no ownership, it has its own advantage, most likely to be very, very cheap, or you'll be buying it next to nothing. But the other disadvantage is the fact that to claim ownership might be difficult, and to get title to might be difficult. Okay, so when it becomes farmland and there are dwellers on the place, to some certain extent you can buy also, and some of the earlier problem might not be visible anymore because there are some measure of ownership structure that have been determined, right? So you can buy it at any state, and when you are buying it, most likely you're either buying it for farming, or you're buying it for land banking, or you want to start development or in skeletal mode. And there are people too that buy even at the earliest stage because they want to move a new society into into that region. You know, there's a series I'm preparing currently, comparing the Nigerian real estate market right now with the Chinese market. Okay, so watch out for that series. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that China did that looks like we are doing right now, and hoping that we will not end up the same way their real estate market has ended up, because we don't even have the support structure that they currently have. So, okay, my name still remains Ope Oluwa Oni. If this has, I mean, made a lot of sense to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, right? And go and win, play big so that you can win big. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot win big. That will be all for now. Bye.